Ladies with gentle hands, welcome back to another episode of You Guessed It, Catching Up with Harlan, with yours truly, Harlan. Uh, Today we're going to be going over a lot of cool stuff. I'm glad you guys are joining in. Got a new location, as you can see. Filming this in my backyard. Got the microphone set up. Got my little desk. Yeah, we're checking it out. Yeah, so I went snowboarding, went up to Summit. There was a lot of snow. We got a lot of snow. About 2 feet from the day before. It was snowing for like almost like a whole week. Got a lot of fresh runs. We were driving up, and there was just a ton of just really drunk idiots in Chevy Colorados that were just not. Chevy Colorados and Jeeps mainly were the people that almost. I saw so many people on the side of the road that just like fell off, and I was so grateful I wasn't one of them. Thankfully, Millie, the Millennium Falcon, made it up. It was great. I mean, the whole drive, like, it was just dumping snow. And, oh my God, it was perfect. I feel like driving in snow is like a hinge date, though. It's just, it's a little bit slippery. I feel like when you go and go out, you're like, why did I even go out? And there's just a lot of shit in the way. And you're like, I should have just stayed at home. There's no point. And it can go any way. Like it could be like, yeah, we made it up to the snow. Yeah, that was super fun. But it could be just, I don't know, just like going on a hinge date. You're like talking about a bunch of bullshit, wondering if this person's gonna like kill you or something. And then also you're trying to make like, yeah, I feel like it's like a Craigslist ad of yourself. It's tough. It's rough. Yeah, it's been a little bit since I did an episode. I got sick. Still trying to get through this. As you can see, we got a new location. Or at least some video. New location, make it a little bit more interesting. Uh, yeah, we went snowboarding. Got a bunch of fresh runs in. Might put a video up, might not. There was so many like people on the way up that we were like, oh my God, this is. But there was no lines. I don't know where all those people went. On like all the chairlifts, we just had amazing people that we were talking to. Like one of them. So my question for the day was like tits or ass was what I was asking the people on the lift, and there was this kid. He shows up and he's got all brown on, just like literally head to toe brown, brown pants, like brown Carhartt jacket, brown Carhartt gloves, and I was like, what? I was wearing a Carhartt jacket, and he was like, damn, I really fuck with that. And I was like, oh, thanks, bro, for sure. And then, I don't know, he was just like, you could tell, like, he, like, very clearly had a lot of alcohol in his jacket. And so he hops on the lift with us, and, like, I was like, there was, like, one person in front of us. I was like, go, 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 go. And he's like, no, I want to go with you. And I was like, you're good. You're chilling. So he hopped on the lift, and we were talking to him. He was in 10th grade, and he was telling me about how he just stole a bunch of, like, Crown Royale and a bunch of Twisted Teas, and they were all in his jacket. And he pulls out this big-ass, like, glass bottle, and he was snowboarding with a glass. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking talented junkie. Like, that is crazy. And, yeah, he was telling me he was one of the locals by the mountain, and he was just, like, I don't know. He loved drinking. He really loved drinking in 10th grade. And all the other guys, they were just gave pretty basic answers like ass and shit. And I was like, bro, all right, whatever. And then, so we get to the lodge. The lodge was a lot of fun. There was so many people in there because it was just dumping at lunchtime and nobody wanted to be outside. And so we go in, and I'm looking for a spot to sit. And I see these like three dudes, and they're just chilling. So I was like, "Hey, can are you guys leaving? Like, I see like they already ate their pizza and they had a bunch of empty beer bottles, and I was like, are you guys almost done? Like, I would love to take or sit down, or there was a few extra seats, so I was like, could me and my buddy sit down? They're like, fuck yeah, come on over here, yeah. And there was like it was like the Three Stooges grew up and like worked at a law firm. They one of them, like, I'll describe side part bald, and I think he had curly hair. We'll go side part bald and curly. And so I was sitting down, and I was sitting across from side part, right next to bald, and then curly was right there, and curly was chill. But so they were all like old frat brothers from like 30 years ago. And so I sit down, and they're just like, how the fuck are you doing, man? And that was my impression of side part. He was just typical, you know. And oh shit, there's a bird right there. I like doing this outside. So side part was, I'm pretty sure, I don't know, he said he sold drugs. That was his job. And so they were talking that like they just got back from Japan, and they were like, we just spent a week in Japan, and this is way better snow than anything in Japan. I was like, damn, bro, like, I'm fucking lucky now. Didn't even spend that much money. And he was like, side part was like, yeah, we were just talking about, like, I asked them the tits or ass question, and they were like, yeah, they all gave honest answers, I could tell. And he was like, yeah, bald is just a shit two-man. I mean, you'd think after all these years he'd be a good two-man. And they've known each other for like 30 years. It was crazy. And side part was like, yeah, we were in Japan, and he wouldn't go on these Vietnamese girls. And I just was sitting there, and I was like, how the fuck do you go to Japan, and you're at 50 years old, and you find some Vietnamese girls, okay, which is questionable, and you're like, yeah, this is like, you're not even trying the local food. You're trying another dish in a different land. That's like me going to Italy and trying sushi, you know, from Italy. It's like, no, have the pizza, have the pasta, you know. Like, when in Rome, do as the Albanians. It was madness what this guy was saying. Like, of course Bald didn't want to go on a two-man with side part. And Curly obviously stuck out of it because Curly has a wife and they've been committed. So I was just sitting there in shock that side part was the typical group leader, probably point on most of the two-mans. And I could see their game and their chemistry was perfect. Like, they were hilarious. And they were just like, I just said that to him. I looked at him and was like, what do you, why aren't you trying the local dish? And he was just like, bro, that isn't, you're right. And so I guess you learn something new every day. We were chilling. It was just me and them alone in the war room, sipping Johnny Walker. And there was another point I wanted to talk. What else? Oh, so they were all like businessmen. I think one was a mechanical engineer, one was a lawyer, and they were all super wealthy. And so I was like, how do you guys, are you guys retired right now? And he was like, no, like, we're on our job. I'm the CEO of this company that does, what do they do? They do all the mechanical engineering for like hospitals. And I was like, there's no way who the fuck put you in charge? And the guy's like sitting there and he's talking about, me and him. I said I wanted to be an architect, and he was like, oh, so you know about ground zero buildings and stuff, and a bunch of shit that I don't know. Just trying to school me, and then I got schooled. But I talked to him a little bit about sustainability in architecture and stuff. And he gets a call from his boss, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm doing, like, a bunch of press shit now. And, like, I'm like, these are, like, the CEOs of, like, companies. These are the people that make millions of dollars a year. And I don't even, like, they're so hammered, and they're so high just snowboarding. And they're going on two-mans in Japan and Vietnam at, like, 50. and they were hilarious. And I was like, this could be the life. This could be one of the cures for male loneliness, male depression, like all this shit, like just being with your boys and having fun. Because they were, I mean, they were like thick as thieves. Like it was crazy. And they were just like, you son of a bitch, get out there, to Curly. So Curly dips off. Curly goes, and then these two are talking like business and shit. And so Side Part looks at me after Curly dips off, and he was like, hey, do you have any weed? And I was like, nah, I don't really smoke weed. And he was like, dude, we got the most amazing, great shit from this guy in this parking lot. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, you guys actually trusted somebody in a parking lot? And I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, bro, that's how they did shit back in the day. Like, that's how they got weed. I feel like old people are, like, much more, like, it's way easier for them to get laced because, like, the way that they, like, used to get weed is how people, like, hobos get meth nowadays. They just, like, go up to some guy with, like, 3 teeth named Ronnie in a van, and they're like, hey, you got any of that good shit? And then Ronnie fucking hands them meth, and, like, they just get laced and shit. Rather than, I mean, I feel like kids these days, they have some friendly, tamed stoner, pulls up in an Audi A3, and is like, here's a pound of weed, and it's legal, and you can get it delivered. And so these old people are just smoking stupid shit. And, I mean, these guys were not just on weed. They were fucking bouncing off the walls. And there was no, like... There's no, some of the shit that they were saying was making no sense, and I was like, you guys definitely like got laced a little bit. Like they were definitely tripping. And so I don't know. I mean, just the way that, like, back in the olden days, they were telling me about, like, I was like, oh, are you guys brothers? Like, are you guys in a frat? Like, which frat? And they were like, we're Eskimo bros. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, but like, I don't know. I wouldn't, like, brag about being an Eskimo bro. I guess just back in the day, they just did it differently. They were dirty. They were for sure dirty. And there was no rhyme or reason to it. They just kind of fucked anything in sight. That's what it seems like with some of these frat brothers. And nowadays, like, you know, everybody writes all their shit in notes. Everybody knows everything about everybody else. Like, back in the day, they were so much more free. They just go to the parking lot, get a little bit of weed, go get with your friend's girlfriend, and, like, that's just how it goes. But I feel like now it's just way different. And, you know, going into that parking lot, finding Ronnie with 3 teeth, he's been wearing the same underwear for, like, a month, versus the A3 guy who wears Calvin Klein boxers. I mean, which one are you going to choose nowadays? And I feel like you have to have a certain level of respect for these guys because they're willing to go into the... I mean, John Jones says embrace the pain. And they're willing for that risk, and they want it. Like, that's where it's at. Yeah. After that, we got a few more runs in, and locks in on the way home. A few upper deckies. Zimbabwe's. Speaking of, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, a few African shuggies. Just headed on home. Gunned on home. Everybody was asleep. It was beautiful on the way home. Lot of great scenery. Driving home, you know, I drive up, I drive down. It's my car, you know. A lot of my friends think I'm like some sort of philanthropist, and I think that I'm not, you know. I don't think I'm anything like that. I mean, they're arguing with me about gas. I'm like, bro, there's 3 people. I drove up. You guys should split the gas because I just bought a car and I'm broke. Please. I'm not a philanthropist. I'm not trying to pay for you guys to go snowboarding. I'm good on that. Like, you guys are great. You know, some of you have good smiles. Some of you have bad smiles, but none of you guys are getting that kind of treatment. You know, I don't really swing that way. I'm good. um, everything you see comes with a charge. I'm not some sort of Andrew Carnegie or anything. I'm nothing like that. It's the law of equal exchange. Newton talked about it. I'm pretty sure. If you take a look at it, like one of the first, I think I forget which law. Oh my god, am I stupid? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, I don't know. And then, anyway. So I get done with snowboarding, unload the car, and I just fall asleep. And so I wake up in the morning, and I just get a phone call at like 8 o'clock, and it's from my jobless friend, Ethan. He's completely unemployed, and he's calling me at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, what, bro? Like, what do you want right now? And he was like, first off, seeing Ethan when you wake up, it kind of just sucks. I feel like I would, as like a punishment, or if like, I kind of had a kid on accident, I'd probably name it Ethan. So just to see that just kind of ruined my day already. And and sorry, Ethan, if you're watching this, that isn't true. He's like, oh, are you ready to get going? Or have you like, and I was like, he's like, for Rolling Loud and stuff. And I was like, damn it. So we have Rolling Loud. And then like, I seriously forgot about it. And so I was like, all right. No, I'm going back to sleep. Like, give me a few more hours. And so he calls me back like 15 minutes later after I hang up on him. He's like, bro, like, wake up. We got to go. And so we get together with my friends. We eat. We get on the road. And we wanted to go do some stuff in LA, which was like so much. Like, the last time I was at LA, it was at nighttime. And LA at nighttime just sucks. And so we're driving up. There was nothing like there was nothing like crazy bad about like the drive up. The drive up was slow, but like gradual, I guess. And we're driving up, and there's just, you could tell when you're in LA just by the amount of trash and like homeless there. It was crazy. And I'm not like trying to get like political or anything, but there was a ridiculous amount of trash on it. It was just really dirty, and you see like the streets just lined with like homeless people on the freeway. And I'm driving past, and there's like these like mansions for homeless people underneath like this freeway on-ramp. There was this grand, like, I would call it a feat of architecture. It had like columns. It had like kind of a mid-century modern vibe to it. It was revolutionary. And I was just thinking to myself, like, you spend all this time and you have all this talent making a house out of trash. You will do anything but work. That's the craziest part. They're sitting there like, bro, I need to spend every day like busting my ass finding like the right pieces of trash to build this. And it was impressive. I was genuinely impressed with the amount of ingenuity and intelligence within the homeless community. He built a castle out of shit on the street. And it wasn't just him. It was like almost everybody. It was crazy. And looking at that, there was just a lot of talent on the streets. I was just admiring it. It was beautiful. The ingenuity and cleverness shouldn't... I wrote this down. The ingenuity and cleverness shouldn't be wasted like that. I don't think so. These people are athletic. They're smart. They're capable. It's just like they have a different form of currency than us. They don't respect dollar bills, they respect meth. And I feel like that's, I mean, that isn't my cup of tea. I don't like meth. Never tried it, but I don't think that the benefits outweigh the costs. I want like my teeth, I want all that shit. I want the skin on my face, like, yeah. But I mean, I saw this one homeless dude do a backflip for $1. I saw this guy do like 30 push-ups for $1. There was people breakdancing on Hollywood Boulevard. There was all types of just talent, and they were all homeless. And I was like, how is this all being wasted? Somebody needs to... I feel like if I ever start a business, I feel like at least one of the businesses, one out of every 3 businesses, need to be powered by homeless people. Or powered by crack, mainly. I feel like if you were to take a dirt lot and just put a pallet of crack there and a bunch of like materials, you would come back a week later and there would be a full-blown house, and you could sell that for a lot of money. I mean, that's good money that we're missing out on. And we could deploy these people in Iraq. We could deploy these people, and we could literally just kind of set up like an IV bag system that is just dripping like methamphetamine into their veins we'll gauge like their sweat, maybe not their sweat, but maybe like their hard work, and give them just a little bit, per hour, and we'll pay them grams per hour. I feel like that'd be a great idea. Anybody that does that, you have to let me know. And that's my idea. That's original. And if you take that from me, you're a bad person. And I was just going around. We were skateboarding. One of my friends was on one of those scooters. They charge like 30 cents a minute. And I guess I don't know, and you can't even go on Hollywood Boulevard, which is like the craziest thing. Like, but I guess it works a little bit. I don't know. There's people that use that. That's more money than like most cars, I think. I don't know. And there's people like with these like microphones just screaming like about Jesus and stuff, about yelling at people. There was this one group of people that were convinced that like only black people were saved, which like I think black like if you I'm Christian, and like I think that I believe what I believe, but I don't think it's based off of like your color, right? I feel like that's crazy. And one of them was telling me, he was like, "Hey, white boy, do a kickflip," and I was like, "For Jesus?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so I do a kickflip, and he's like, "Ah, man, you're going to hell." And I was like, "Fuck, just because I can't do a kickflip, bro? That's crazy. That's crazy." And that's got to be. I feel like if Jesus is basing whether I can do a kickflip or not, if I go into heaven, that is a bad. That I don't know if that's a good world to live in. And then he was telling me that he was like asked me what race I was, and I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Oh," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "Bro, that is like crazy, bro. That like, why are you so like caught up on this? Like, that can't be right. That can't like." I don't know. I don't try to like hate on anybody for what they think, but like that's crazy. That is wild. And so we're going along the streets, and we we go to Hollywood Burger. Shout out to Hollywood Burger. They did great service. I got their chicken tender bowl. That was super good. And then we got to Rolling Loud, which was pretty cool. Like we go in, we show up at 4. Fortunately, we missed Jello, 1900 Rugrat, and Miles, because those I don't even know how they're at Rolling Loud. They don't make like music. They just make sounds, I guess. And I don't respect that. But we caught Ski Mask, the Slump God. He was Ski Mask, yeah. It was pretty. It was a lot of just sweaty people, and they were all super nice. I just feel like it felt like a CrossFit or something. Like it was like Orange Theory on like a Mass Effect, and a bunch of rappers were leading it, you know, and I feel like Sexy Red probably. I saw like when Sexy Red came out, it was probably like the least amount of movement I've seen in a crowd. Like everybody was just like she was up there just throwing ass, just like, and I was like, bro, and nobody was like cheering or anything, like because she was just like yelling, and I was like, how are you one of the lead performers? She was busting it right open for sure, and then she brought out a bunch of strippers with like strip poles, and I was like, wow, okay, and she was with a bunch of backup dancers and stuff, but none of them knew how to dance. They just knew how to twerk. And so I was just like sitting there like, this is crazy. This is wild. Like, what kind of world do we live in where crackheads can do a backflip for $1 and Sexy Red's getting paid $1 million per show for just shaking ass and screaming? And she brings out like these backup dancers, and the best way I could put them, they were, how do I say this? Like a lot of them I wouldn't want to wrestle with. A lot of them, they were heavier set. One of them was like in black, like in the one that was like in black clothes, like, how do I say that? She was like, if Sexy Red was like Mark Wahlberg in terms of like assets and like property, she probably would have been closer to Larry Ellison or Bill Gates, just in like terms of like just mass. Sorry, like property and stuff. So yeah, it was a very upstanding show, and it made a lot of sense to have her there, and I'm very grateful for her set. And then we got some food. Some guy gave me some like free meal cards. They had like these little coupons for like meal. So we got some cold pizza, which was, it was like lukewarm, and lukewarm pizza is just the worst. I had just the crust because I was off that. And then Peso came out, Peso Pluma. Shout out to them. They killed it. Peso, I mean, I don't know what they were saying. I'm not very fluent in Spanish, but they were talking about like revolutions and stuff, and I guess Peso Pluma has been controversial. I didn't know that. A lot of the homies were in the crowd, I guess is the best way. A lot of Hispanic community was there. They were going crazy. A lot of great music though from Peso. They had some like terrific art, and like the people were doing some crazy dancing. Very talented, very talented. They definitely had a few crackheads up there. I looked at one guy, and his eyes looked like they hadn't blinked in a few like days. They looked dried out, and I was like, somebody get this guy some water or something. And then Ty Dollar Sign came out with Rich the Kid. Shout out to them. They did Carnival, and then some Rich the Kid song, and Carnival was crazy. Everybody went wild because it just got dark, and there was like planes flying over and like all types of fireworks, big pyro show. It was a lot of people, and then I was sitting there. Peso ended about 9, and then ASAP Rocky was supposed to come on at 9:30, and we were sitting there, and then like these boys, like this group of people, we're all packed in as close as we can to see ASAP Rocky. And then this guy, this little tiny homie comes up, and he's like, I'm going that way. And I was like, all right, this guy can go through. And then another one comes, and then another one comes, and like the guy's girlfriend comes through. And then like this, like I was like, listen, bro, like there's no more room. Like, do you want me to leave? Like, that's crazy that you think you get prio over me, you know? And so I was like, bro, like, and he was like, hey man, I just need to, that's my group. And I was like, bro, like whatever, bro. And we've all been in contact with somebody that's just clearly just out of control. And so then this brother walks up to me and he comes and stands next to me. He's like, "Sorry, bro, this is like my crew." I told him to not barge through, like, and he stands up next to me, and I was like, "No, it's all good. I appreciate you being like respectful and stuff." And we just get to talking, and he was funny as hell, and he was like showing me he like fucked up his finger. He had got like a cut on it, and I was like, "Oh, like when did you get here? You know, like who have you seen?" And he was like, "Oh, we just snuck in," and I was like, "No way!" And so this whole group of people didn't even pay, and then starts pushing up beside all the people who like paid, and I was like, you know, I've snuck into concerts and shit, so I was like, you know, more power to you. But Nemo was his name was Nemo. Shout out Nemo. Nemo was like, I was like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "Nemo," and I was like, "Nemo," and he was like, "Yeah, like the fish," and I was like, "This is my homie Dory," and it was actually Ethan, but I called him Dory because you don't want to be called Ethan in any public scenario. It was just so much fun talking to Nemo, and then it was fun talking to him, and then like 30 minutes go by, and we're like, "Bro, ASAP's supposed to be out right now. It's 9:30." Okay, and Nemo's like, "Yeah, but like, you know, he's supposed to come out at 9:30. I'm expecting him to be 50 minutes late because like you think about it, if all like the shit rappers like 1900 Rugrat are like 2 minutes late, it adds up, and so it catches up on the last one, and they make you wait hella long, and nobody's gonna wait for Sexy Red. Everybody's gonna wait for ASAP Rocky. So it ends up we're standing there, and they're throwing like these packets of water out, and they're just like hitting people in the face because it's like a packet of water, you know. And like at the first we were like, "Yeah, this is sick. We got a bunch of water," and then an hour goes by, and like everybody needs to piss. I see like everybody's doing like the little dance and shit, and like it you could see the uneasiness in like the crowd, the sea of people, and like me and Nemo were just talking, and we're like, "Bro, like this needs to get like this show needs to get on the road." And I'm sitting here, and there's this like big like I would say another Larry Ellison build, just like sitting there, and he was just this bald fellow, and he was just so drunk, and like just any girl that was like in his way, like he would just be like, "Hey, you want to go to the bathroom with me?" And like was like pushing up on all of us, and like this girl next to me that I knew was like, "Bro, like you need to chill." And then like the guy was like just like shoving everybody, and like it was just a bad look. Like if you're an adult going to Rolling Loud and you can't handle your liquor, like just stay home, bro. Stay home. I wish it snowed that day. You probably would have not made it up that mountain. And we're all sitting there, and then eventually like we hear like a helicopter and shit. And no fucking joke, ASAP Rocky comes down on a helicopter, and he's up there in the sky, and he's just singing like fucking everybody goes crazy. Everybody starts sprinting towards the stage. Like you thought there was no space, and now there's a ton of space. And so we're all getting closer to the stage, and we're all breaking our necks looking up, and ASAP Rocky's sitting up there, and he's rapping, and then he gets lowered down by a suspension cable, and it was probably like one of the like I was sitting there, and if he just walked out, like it wouldn't have been worth it. But like he just came down from the sky, and I was like, wow, this guy gets so much pussy. Like he gets so much pussy, he didn't get in trouble for attempted manslaughter. That's crazy. And he comes down and he does this little speech like about his case, and he's like, "I've been telling y'all for the longest time, y'all need to stop snitching." And I was like, "Bro, you try to like kill somebody." Anyways, he is talking and stuff. It was the whole set in total was like definitely had good imagery. It was just kind of good overall. Not like super great. Like he didn't play like most of his best songs. He didn't play Sundress. He didn't play any of that. But it was like I feel like the guy who was on sound control probably got divorced like at least a week before, and he just wanted to hurt everybody in that crowd. I mean, there was a second, for no joke, like 10, maybe 30 seconds of just bass. And like it became hard to breathe how like much bass there was. Like I was looking over and everybody was just like plugging their ears, and like all the songs like had so much bass, like your whole like outfit was shaking off you. Like I looked over at a few guys and like they were down to nothing. They were in their underwear. And I was like, this can't be legal. This has to be also attempted manslaughter. So I feel like that guy should be locked up. It was hard to breathe between the sweat and bass, for sure. And there was like a sea of people, and there was like a ton of mosh pits. And I've never really like been a fan of mosh pits and stuff, but I expected at Rolling Loud for it to be. What's the best way I could put this? I mean, it's kind of inevitable to like be in a mosh pit, I guess. When I was thinking of like a mosh pit, though, I was thinking like Fight Club or like Gladiator. But what I was provided was like more like Daddy's Home. Like it was just like kind of subtle disses at like other people, and there was a bunch of like little kids, you know. Uh, and you know, I saw a lot of stuff that day. It was a lot of driving, and I put a lot of miles on, and there was a lot of reasons I could like hate. You know, there's a lot of reasons I could be like, all right, like the people on the streets yelling at me. Like we were coming into Rolling Loud, and this guy was holding up like a bunch of stuff saying that like we're all going to hell, and then he was sitting with the loudspeaker, and he was like, y'all are just a bunch of mama's boys that are trying to act gangster, and was just like, you know, just screaming at people. And I was like, there's a lot of different ways to come at it, and like while that guy can do that, I don't think he should have been like. I don't respect the insults he was throwing out at people walking into Rolling Loud trying to enjoy a festival. Well, like, you know, obviously like some of the performances weren't like great. It was just like kind of unsettling, and I feel like it put more people off of like knowing like the goodness in like what like the Bible means, you know. And so there's people like all day just talking about God, and I just want to share something. Matthew 6:23. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? And so I see that personally as like it's not about what I see, it's about how I see it. And it like looking at all these people, and there's reasons behind why people do things. And I feel like your eyes are the lamp to your soul. And so if I'm constantly taking in things in a negative light, or if I'm constantly looking at stuff like, all right, this person doesn't like me, so I hate him, like, or if this person doesn't believe what I believe, I hate them, then my whole body's going to be filled with hate. My like everything that I think about is going to be filled with hate. And if you've been to LA before, like you can understand like the differences in people and the differences in everything ASAP Rocky was saying. Like there's every reason for us to be divided right now. He had a little speech. He's like, there's every reason for us to be divided right now, but like I see a lot of people that are together, and I feel like there's a special kind of quality in somebody that can just accept somebody for who they are, and like understand that like I can sit there and understand that like, you know, Sexy Red is like just trying to like do her own thing, I guess. And like I think my way is better, obviously, but like at the end of the day, like insulting them and being negative only hurts me, you know? Especially with those like Black Jesus people, I feel like that just turns away a lot of people from, you know, thinking right thoughts, and it just ends up making more people more lost. So I just want to share my experience with this last weekend and some fun stuff that happened. I'm thankful for everybody I met. It was a lot of fun, and that's about all I got. Thank you for tuning in, for catching up with Harlan, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.